I vomited blood the other day.
You did what? That's a weird way to open up right when I unmute you. Doing what to blood stuff? Did
I did go to the doctor.
good. I think when you vomit blood, when blood comes out of places that it's not supposed to come out of, you pick your orifice, Chris. I don't care which one. It's a good idea to go to the doctor.
And there was blood coming out of my eyes or ears. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the doctor.
You know, I've had it
Um,
come out of my ears before with like a high
yeah,
fever
ears.
when my
Yeah,
eardrums burst. But I mean,
that's true. Ears might not be that big of a deal.
I'm less concerned about ears than eyeballs in terms of places where blood comes out. Pretty concerned
Nose
with
definitely doesn't
nose.
count.
Yeah,
Nose is
whatever.
definitely.
I was one of those kids. My nose would bleed when I jumped in the pool the first time. Right, it just would, just like every time.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
no
gosh.
concern.
I
Welcome
remember.
to medical
Remember in
concerns.
church. One time in church, I was like 5. I was picking my nose, picked too hard,
Hmm?
bleeding, and my mom was walking me up the altar. Just blood into my mouth. It's like silver. Uh,
Yeah. I've seen a meme before, and I'm butchering it slightly, but essentially, like kid picking his nose, and then the next screen or the next capture is the Mines of Moria from Lord of the Rings, and the captions like they dug too greedily and too deep. And it's because like kid picking
yeah.
his nose in the first. Yeah, listen, it happens. The best of us.
But I'm fine. I'm fine. FY. I had strep throat this week,
Cool.
um,
Not
and
cool, but
and
you
I got a headache. I got a headache the other day, unrelated to the strep throat. I just get headaches sometimes, and for some reason,
it's
when I
called
get
being
headaches,
alive.
yeah, when I get headaches, I often throw up. I don't know if that's a normal thing for people. I think that's a migraine thing,
Hmm.
maybe.
I think it's normal
And
for migraines. I wouldn't say it's normal in the general population.
okay, but since I was a little kid, if my headache got bad enough, I would throw up. But it's gotten weirder though lately. Like my headache doesn't have to get really bad, so I'm just like, I'm making pain and laying down. It could just be like there. Like I could be functioning and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this headache's getting a little bit worse. Oh, my stomach's starting to feel queasy. All right, I'm about to throw up. Anyway, I threw up, and because of my strep, like the back of my throat was the stress of throwing up. No one say rubber, just aggravated it, and anyway,
this
threw up blood.
is our
I'm
best.
fine.
This is our best opening minute in podcast history.
Blood bending.
Blood coming out of every orifice. Welcome to Avatar: The Last Podcasters. My name's Shawn. That's Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. This is Avatar: The Last Podcast. What are we talking about? I forgot. Toph. Hey, Chris. Today we're going to talk about Toph because she has a character arc, and we're going to discuss it. I'm gonna projectively ask you how you've been and what you've been doing, but Chris, this is 3 weeks into the future, so really predict really hard how you will have been. I think I used the
Honestly,
English right there.
uh, um, great. You know, writing chapter 1 of Avatar, Kitsune Cross Zeto.
Mm.
You know, we're making a lot of headway there. We got character designs all. No, I'm kidding. This is gonna take a really long
Been
time for
putting
us
in
to
phone
finish.
calls to potential voice actors for when the movie comes out, but that's down the road.
Yeah,
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I assume you'll be watching. You'll be watching playoff basketball. The Lakers will have.
I didn't want to mention it because
Uh,
honestly, I don't. I'm not sure
that's
if
too
the
far out.
Lakers will be playing in
That's
three.
too far out to project, but I'm going to say the Lakers will have been in the playoffs at that point. I feel safe with that bet. I can't go any farther than that's too much day-to-day math. Chris,
Yeah,
that being said, we don't have to dwell on pleasantries here. Also cuz it's 12:15 in the morning. Let's talk about Toph's character arc. And I will say that I brought this up as a just to pay my respects. And so you've put some guidelines around it, and I think that's excellent because it needed it. But just because Toph has an unusual character arc in that she is the one character that appears prominently across the first season of the show, right? The first show, pardon me, and then the second show, and in between, and we have information about her life in between, right? Like we have a very broad expanse of her life, and so she has an interesting character arc. I just wanted to pay some homage to it.
Yeah. And it's really, yeah. As you say, she has an interesting character arc. It's very interesting in the sense that Toph. I love Toph's character arc because it is probably the most real character arc. Like it is. It's not. It's not completely uh linear and progressive. It is a roller coaster. It is unsteady. It is growing at times. It is declining. It is a real personal character arc, and I appreciate that a lot. Like you don't see that often with characters, especially when you get to the end of their story. Especially the you think all these characters just go off and live happy lives, and that's not always the case, especially in real life.
It's crazy to think that, not crazy to think, it's not like an aspirational character arc. I'm not saying you should aspire to follow the
Yeah.
path that Toph has followed, but it is the most, like, if you were feeling a little bit down about where you were in life or whatever, it's so relatable, and it feels the most realistic to how sometimes people's lives ebb and flow and experience their highs and lows, and that has a lot of meaning to me. So Chris, I think the structure that we're going to put around this at your suggestion is there were four key episodes and maybe some other events that we'll sprinkle in, of course, but four key episodes that reveal the most about Toph's life. And we're going to look at those and just have a quick chat about them and the ups and downs that come with it.
Yes, and I 1 second because I'm going to look up episode titles. I know three out of the four in my head, off the top of my head. But there's one from Legend of Korra that I don't remember. Maybe it's Out of the Past. Maybe it's old. It's Old Wounds. It's Old Wounds. Before I believe it's Old Wounds. Let me prove that. Look for it, but it should be Old Wounds. I am pretty confident that it is Old Wounds, and it is Old Wounds. I am right. Because I know Avatar. I am the greatest Avatar mind. Nah, probably just top 3%. Top 1%. Yeah. It's like, anyway, that's like freaking ramble on. So, yes, there are like 5 episodes or story beats that I think really puts a microscope on Toph's character arc. And of course, that first one is the Blind Bandit, where we first meet Toph. And this is kind of the bedrock of her character arc, right? So we meet Toph. Um, First time we meet her is at Earth Rumble, and she is loud. She is bodacious. She is kicking butt. She's blind. And then Aang tries to track her. Well, yeah, Aang, defeats her at Royal Rumble, and she's mad about it. Probably because she's tough, and this is a little bit part of her arc. But the thing that gave her a sense of self was being an Earthbender, was being a fighter, was being the champion of Earth Rumble. Like when Aang beats her, she's mad, but she's I feel like she's mad in a way because that title was taken from her as like the greatest Earthbender, or just even that illusion or just she was beat at the thing that she loved, and I think that's part of her identity. Similar to Korra, Korra ties her identity up in being an avatar, being a great bender and stuff. In fact, I've been thinking about this a lot. That Toph and Korra are so much alike. Not to bring up Korra again, I feel like I stand out on Korra oftentimes. Um, but and I might get into this more. Anyway, Toph identifies, puts a lot of her self identity into being an Earthbender, and that's really sad because she goes home while Aang tries to track her down, and she's not that. She's not that at home. She is treated as a scared, timid, fragile, blind little girl, And that part is like probably one of the toughest things for her to handle.
Aang took the one part of her identity she could control. What a jerk.
Work. I love egg. I feel like I should say that more. Because I feel like oftentimes find myself not talking down to egg, but just anyway. That's not here.
He didn't. Yeah, that's
Um,
not. That's not here. It is there. It's not here.
not here. And we see that Toph has to put on this facade in the Blind Bandit episode as Aang visits with the family and stuff. And then she opens up to Aang when they have those private moments together. She's like, I trained with the Badger moles. I could see everything. Like it's almost like she has so much potential, and she's just being just trapped here. She feels trapped. Um, and then they kidnap Toph. Uh, see, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting his name for some reason. But Royal Rumble people, not Royal Rumble,
Close
Earth Rumble
enough.
people,
Yeah, close
yeah,
enough.
kidnap Toph, and then she beats the crap out of him. One thing I also wanted to mention is that like, man, it's so disheartening to hear this at that dinner. Angus like, oh, Toph, like they're like, oh, this master could teach you. He's been teaching Toph for a while, and Angus like, oh, that must mean Toph is a great Earthbender. And her dad is like, no, sadly, because of her blindness, she'll never be a good Earthbender. It's like, what the heck, like freaking jerk. And just eats away at Toph. It has to eat away at her. And then you know, so Toph opens up to Aang, which the first time she opens up to really anyone. Like Toph is closed off so much because she's not allowed to be vulnerable with the people close to her. Like go like read or listen to TED Talks from Brene Brown about vulnerability. It's some great, I think, life lesson stuff. Do you know about Brene Brown at all? Seems like that's something you would know.
No, I don't. I'm not familiar.
Um, I think it's great TED Talks about vulnerability and how you can really grow through being vulnerable, stuff like that. But thing is, Toph puts up a shield all the time, and whether it's to her parents or putting up the shield of being this little girl, because she can't be vulnerable because she's afraid of what they're going to say to her. She's afraid that they're going to take away part of her identity. Um, but she's vulnerable to Aang. That's probably the first person she's been able to be vulnerable to ever. Um, if any Toph Aang shippers out there you go. I gave you some firepower. Uh, um, and then we we have her taking out all of the Earth people, and even the Master's like after she takes out everyone, takes out after she takes out everyone, he's like, I can't believe it. She's the greatest Earthbender I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, that's freaking Toph, the greatest Earthbender you've ever seen. Even when she comes out to her parents, it's like, hey, like I'm a great Earthbender. I love doing it. I love fighting. That's her. I know. I said before that being vulnerable can be a good thing. And this is her being vulnerable to her parents. That's thing about being vulnerable is that sometimes you're gonna get hurt. And she gets hurt by her dad being like, "We giving you too much freedom. Like we're locking you up essentially." So Toph had this is the foundation of her character arc is that she had really restrictive parents who didn't allow her to be herself. Like and she hated that aspect of them. She hated it so much she ran away. And like thing is that honestly don't blame maybe because of maybe because they my own kids or something, or just anyone could think in general. Um, but like if you were Toph's dad, would you let her run away with the Avatar to train him? A very day like the Fire Nation are after this person, and sure, you even if I think you're the greatest Earthbender ever, oh, he's probably not seen a bunch of them. But even if you're a great Airbender, it's like, why would I put my daughter, 12-year-old daughter, in harm? No, I'm not letting her go out
My
there.
12-year-old
Um,
blind daughter, who until recently I assumed
yeah,
was mostly worthless.
yeah. Like, so I don't necessarily even disagree with him, but I disagree with his reasoning. His reasoning was like we giving you his reasoning was you're not the person I want you to be. You're not the person that I've groomed you to be. I don't accept you for who you are. That's how that was shown, displayed, probably ingested by Toph, which forced her to run away.
Yeah, what like I'm completely with you. Can't blame her dad for the decision. Can completely blame him for the reasoning. I will say that as much as Toph puts up shields, when we first start here and we're talking about character arc, before we know a little bit more about Toph, and they do a good job of alluding to it, but like for a small person in her situation, you think pretty highly of Toph, and it's hard not to of her, like the way that she is dealt in her very short young life with such unusual odds. You already come out of the gate thinking pretty highly of what she's done and the type of person you think she's going to be. You don't
Hmm.
come out seeing her or being upset by the fact that she's stubborn or sometimes frustrating or anything like that. Not yet.
Yeah, yeah. And then that goes. I didn't have this in my list before, but the chase is also. I think of these moments of these episodes of probably the one of the most minor things. Not most minor things, but of compared to the rest of these. Because in the chase, you finally get that sense of like, all right, here's Toph's character compared to other people. She feels like Katara's like, hey, we got to build camp and stuff, and Toph was like, I got it. Like, I don't need you guys. Like, I can take care of my own self. Again, that's her almost building up a shield, a front that she can take care of herself, shutting herself off to other people. And she has that great conversation with Iroh in the chase, about like, oh, like I think, you know, Iroh gives her the great advice of like, I think you need your friends and your friends need you. And then she tells him the same thing about Zuko and Iroh's relationship. So that was a very also important moment to get the sense that Parsons' character arc is realizing that I am not enough myself that I can trust in other people to help me, and I can show affection to them, and I can thank them for being there for me. Now, so far, we're on a pretty good trajectory here. Um,
And I don't think we get the
and
sense, at least in our first watch through, of the type of impact Toph's character is going to have. Right? For all the world, like this is not a S tier character, but like a B, like an A or B tier character that's along for the ride and it's going to teach Aang to Earthbend.
oh, yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, that's going to be a good character, and she's going to get a little better, and such is life. I think is where you're at right now in your first watch
Mm,
through.
yeah. Then we have the Runaway. Um, I really love the Runaway. It has a lot to do with Katara and Toss bashing heads, just like the chase. Man, they better get this right in live action. Like that Katara Toph butting heads thing is so critical especially critical to Toph. Also, I think it's good. It's uh, it's critical for Katara as
Yeah, it's
well,
good
but it's
good growth material for both sides.
yeah,
Don't nerf it.
uh,
Let us have it.
yeah, yeah. Um, and in that, Toph Toph is shutting off her real thoughts. Like Katara's right. Katara's like, you ran away. Like, I think you actually do miss your parents or stuff. And Toph is, although Toph's been shutting herself off from those feelings, but Katara brings that out in her. Um, yeah, that's just more Toph growth.
Um,
Uh,
Remind me a little bit in the Runaway of like the end. What's the resolution? I forget how they make amends.
Katara. Well, Toph was going to apologize to Katara after Sokka has that great one-on-one meeting with Toph about like how Katara is like always there and motherly, and even Toph was like, she's also like she's very motherly to me too. Like she really cares about me, the person who I am. Like, and Toph didn't get that from her parents. Like they didn't care about the real person who Toph was, but Katara does. Um, and then Toph was gonna apologize to Katara, and then Katara, they're trying to also make amends. It's like, all right, let's pull off a heist together. So it's just them two, which of course leads to shenanigans. Not really shenanigans, but kerfuffles. That's the word.
I will say that episode, if memory serves me right, though, is it's kind of at the head of some episodes where you might be a little bit frustrated with Toph. You're starting to see that, like, not that you don't like her, but you're still dealing with a young person, right? In the same way we get frustrated at Aang in certain times, in certain situations. And so it is almost, maybe it's almost shocking to see Katara scoop down to her level, so to speak, right? For Katara to take
Yeah,
that path.
yeah. Toph is wrong in the Runaway. Like she is. Um, like the first time, hey, sure, uh, rip off the guy who's purposely stealing from you. Then they got into like extortion
Yeah,
and stuff, and then like it got out of control. Katara was definitely in the right because they were drawing the attention of Fire Nation people. Um, it's funny looking at the art book. They have translations and stuff for like all the different posters and stuff.
yeah.
And in that poster, um, it says, "Watch out for blind bandit." Like it's a little girl who's pretending to be blind because because they think she's pretending she is blind. She just doesn't act like it.
They haven't wrapped their minds around it just yet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Um. Oh, the thing I want to mention about how Korra and Toph are similar is that like both of them are just like trapped. Like both of them never grew up with friends, and both of them are just kind of trapped in their own homes. Korra because White Lotus made her stay. I mean, and because they wanted to train her as the Avatar, and Toph because they treated her like a so fragilely. But both of them are actually like pretty similar, also in their attitudes and stuff. Which is why they are often wanting to prove themselves.
That could be a fun episode someday. Line
Yeah,
the two up. But anyway, my point with this part is just to see that like you might be enamored with Toph in the early going, but then there's a certain point in here where you do remember that she's still a kid, and she makes you want to pull your hair out sometimes.
yeah. By the so then we get by the end of the series, I think Toph has fully come around to accepting her friends, accepting that she is not a one man army. That contrary to what Avatar fans have you believe, um, um, that that she needs her friends' help and stuff, and she can show affection, to a certain extent. Even though she still kind of like does the whole like punching thing to show affection and stuff. But it's still like clearly affection for for her friends. And so by the end of the series, you might think like, all right, Toph has kind of come in a good little arc here. And then in the comic books, um,
She's
there's
almost
more of
like a
her.
fully realized person through what there is in the comic
Yeah,
books. Like she's a functioning adult with a job and a plan. You know what I mean?
yeah, she has metal bending academy and stuff. She does reconcile with her father in the comic books. I believe it's in the Rift. Um, I think I just wanted to bring that up just to say where her relationship is with her father at that point that they reconciled. But
Does she
now,
approach him or vice versa? Surely, I think she goes to him, right?
so they just happen to meet. Um, they're at there's some factory that is causing pollution. It's causing some issues. And Aang and Team Avatar goes to investigate, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta shut this place down." And even at this point, Toph isn't like, "Guys, I don't know what they're not saying we gotta shut this place down, but we need to talk. We need to firmly talk to the people in charge. Um, yeah, because factories causing some type of pollution. And then the person who is like uh money providing the money and stuff in the factory is Toph's dad, Beifong, whatever his name is. Um, and then Toph was like, "Dad," and then he doesn't even. I wouldn't say recognize. He doesn't even. Uh, why can't I think of freaking words? Dang it! He doesn't even. He notices her, but he doesn't. Oh my gosh!
I have
Why can't
no
I think of
idea what
the
word you're
word?
looking for.
He doesn't recognize her as his daughter. He. Oh my gosh! I'm stupid brain farts.
What are you trying to
He
say?
he doesn't accept her. He doesn't even call her his daughter.
Okay.
Like he disowns, not even disowns, because that's like the action before doing this anyway. He completely disregards. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It's not, but it's close enough. He
Disowns?
disregards her. Maybe disowns. I don't know. Anyway, she's like, "Dad," and he's like, "I don't know you." Like as if he's dead. As if she's dead to him. So that was like some cruel freaking stuff. Eventually they reconcile by the end of it. By the end of the rift, I forget exactly how. Oh, I think because Toph saves him, and he realizes like he's freaking dumb. They're like, oh, she's been doing all this stuff. I guess she really is amazing. I don't know. Probably could have been better writing. Um, but anyway, they reconcile.
Probably could have been better writing like Avatar, Kitsune, Cross, Zeto,
Yeah.
the hypothetical writing.
Uh,
But by the end of like again, what to what extent we have it in the comics, she's it feels like she's almost a pretty fully fledged, high functioning,
I think
emotionally
so.
and independently adult.
Yeah, she's had a full character arc. Uh, but thinking about real life is that you're not done growing. Sometimes you're not done regressing because
No,
we get into the Legend of Korra and a couple important episodes that we see of her. First of all, she's still calling Aang Twinkle I'm kidding. That's just cool and adorable. Not talking about that episode. But we do see Toph's daughter, Chief Beifong, in the Legend of Korra. Great, amazing character. Um, and we don't see Toph until season 3. Um, we see her. Oh, I didn't put down the episode where Korra gets reunited with Toph. I mean, it happened at the end of Korra Alone, and I forget what the episode after that is called. Um, and I don't think there's that much stuff. No, there is stuff because Korra asks Toph like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" It's almost like I'm. It's interesting. Sorry, let me backtrack. Toph is mentioned in Zaofu. Like Aiwei says, like, "Oh, like Toph has went off to travel the world to seek enlightenment." Like that's not what she did. Like Toph is not the type of person to seek enlightenment for first of all, and also we find her in the swamp just chilling. Like she's out there, and they don't blatantly say this, but I think she's out there because she has either she's lost herself
she
essentially. Like sure, she
she
may be
is
trying to find herself.
intentionally off the grid. It is on
Yeah,
purpose. It is by design, and I will try to withhold judgments too harshly about what that is. But for reasons that to me seem like they would most likely be selfishly motivated, she is off the grid.
I absolutely agree. I think she feels lost. I think she doesn't know how to reconcile things with Lin, like she did with Suyin, and she has a pretty good relationship with Suyin finally, but she wasn't able to reconcile things with Lin, and so she went out there as not a self-imposed punishment, but just like, all right,
People
like
people
I'll just
process
leave.
guilt differently. right? Even if you think you got your
Yeah,
own life in order, if you think you've negatively affected the life of another loved one, it's self punishment
yeah,
or just a
and
means of reacting to
and
guilt.
she's delusional. Speaking of delusion again,
Word of the day.
uh, like she tells Korra's like, you out here all alone. She's like, I can see everything. Like I see Lin, I see Suyin. Like that's not the same. Like you're not sure you can see them, but you're not living with them. You can see every single freaking thing that Lin is doing, but you're not living. It's like going off the grid, but you have cameras to all your family. Like, oh, I see what they're doing and stuff. That's not living. That's not being part of the family.
You're existing in a funnel kind of created
Hmm.
for and by yourself in a very narrow, yeah, in a very narrow space.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not a little jealous, because sometimes it sounds like a good idea to live off the grid. It's election year. It's going to sound great like November. You know what I mean? But
Hmm. Yeah. um, I would never want to live. I love being alone. I love being alone. Not off the grid though, but alone. Yeah.
I,
Which okay, well that sounds like Toph. No, because that's different. I like being alone for a certain amount of time. Like if I was trapped on an island and I'll be like, but they're like, hey, don't worry, 7 days, someone will be here to save you. I'd be like, all right, cool. Do I got food? Like, yeah, here's a pond of fish. You just stick them, put them on fire or whatever. I'm like, all right, here's some
cool.
coconut
Yeah, let's
water.
do that.
I think I can handle it. But do I got a
I
blanket? Here's a pillow, and a blanket, sleeping bag. You'll be fine. All right, cool.
I am similar. I think if you gave me a set amount of time, which are you just gotta just chill here, will you be okay? I'd be like, yeah, I'll be all right
Yeah.
for X number of days.
Um. So Toph cut herself off from feeling the world, cut herself off from her feelings. So this is definitely regression. Like you feel like Toph has worked through this, and then you might think to yourself, all right, well, what was the catalyst for this regression? So oftentimes in life there are catalysts for things, um, and that was, we learn in old wounds how Toph parented, which again, that foundation before Toph parenting skills were not great. They really weren't.
No,
But
they were not.
and it's not bad writing; it's great writing. Her parents treated her like the way they. Her parents treated her like the fragile little girl they thought she was. They didn't give her any freedom to be who she truly is. So Toph gave her kids complete freedom to be whoever they are. And then, too much freedom is it's not good. Got to have some guardrails in there. While Lynn and I have a sense that neither one of them got the attention they needed because also Toph was the chief of police. Also another thing, and I'm not saying that like women need a man in their life. One thing I think both parents are needed, and I know in general, I know that single parents can raise a fully functioning well adult, but it's great to have both parents.
It
I'm
is
sure Sting
great to have
before
both parents in a nutshell.
that. Yeah.
Like
Um,
not just existing, but like present and interested in being not crappy parents.
yeah. Toph, my understanding of it is that Toph probably felt like I don't need anyone to help me with this. I don't know what the relationship was with her kids' parents, her kids' dads. Actually, she had a pretty good relationship with one of them. She's like, "Oh yeah, he's a fine person. We just didn't." With Su Yin's dad, wait, who was it? No, with Lin's dad, because Bolin asked her in Operation Beifong, like, "Who's Lin's dad?" And she's like, "Oh, it was some man named Tano. Not Tano. Tano is some man named some man named Tano."
Some nigga
fine a
named
fella, but things
Han
didn't
that
work
I met up in the Northern Water Tribe. Very handsome,
out.
selfless.
But it'd be funny if you start off with, "Oh, a water tribe boy, not Sokka. Get that out your head."
That would actually
Name,
be
huh?
funny. Yeah.
Um, but Toph. So if Toph had a fairly good relationship with this person, but she still didn't have him in Lynn's life, so she must have felt like I don't need him. Like, but that's probably a mistake. That's regression and stuff of that character thinking that she can do everything by herself, and she couldn't. Um, and then not forget about there's not much information on Lynn's dad, so Toph had to raise her kids on her own. Um, no help, and but she let them have all the freedom in the world. Su Yin turned to a life of mischief and stuff at a young age, which isn't like a if she had more guardrails, I think it would have been aimed and focused better. Um, and then Lynn would have had grown up and had so much animosity. Like Lynn was asking, begging for attention for Toph, which is why she became a cop just like Toph, like to get that pride and admiration from her mother, and that still didn't amount to anything.
Right.
And
And
then
on either side, they both went different directions, and still,
yeah,
but
yeah,
what it boils down to is probably that, or that Toph's art gets shaken by life, which is what happens to humans. Right? You're never static, and even if you think you're static, you're not. You age, things change, something happens. Right? So,
but
yeah,
criminal
her
fly from Scott. Sorry, I think of Static as a Static Shock.
as
I am
as
Static Shock.
we experience what we feel like is a great, fully realized character at the end of Avatar. At least what we have so far through the comics, etc. Is still a small child that has a lot of life left to live. And like I said, her art gets shaken and she reacts in a way that feels very real and not always very good. And so then what we're left with and what we're working up to here is a somewhat grumpy old woman who has intentionally separated herself from society to avoid something, most likely, or to at least be disassociated from the feelings and frustrations of society. At a minimum, I think we're
Mm-hmm.
allowed to cite that as likely motives. Who does still kind of get one more little shot at redemption with Korra.
Yeah, yeah. Are you talking about with Korra as in the show, or with Korra as in the character herself? The
With Korra within the confines of the show, and she having the
okay, okay,
opportunity
yes.
having the opportunity
Sorry,
to help Korra. And
I was like, oh, I was like, oh yeah.
no, just
No.
but even then, first, it's I wouldn't say it's begrudging. It's not begrudging, but she treats it so offhandedly.
Hmm.
Even that's like she doesn't jump right in like, yeah, I'm helping the Avatar for the good of the world. Like she just does it because Korra kind of fell on her doorstep.
True, and then she gets to the point where it's like who cares what you do? Like there's always gonna
Yeah,
be bad guys. Like she is this uh this way. Oh my gosh, I need a thesaurus. Um, she has been jaded in a way
this
about
dissociative
what.
old woman.
Yeah.
And so
And she just really necessarily gained that. I mean, she's too old to kind of be like, all right, well now I'm gonna get in to it. She does felt like she was too old to actually
yep,
make a
yep.
difference.
And but again, that what part of what makes this important to me, and that I'll keep beating through the next few minutes or whatever, is that feels like what life can do to. I think it's great writing because I think that feels like what life can do to you over time. One day or one time, one moment, you feel like you've kind of got things starting to line up, and then you don't, and it changes your attitude, and you have to work hard to readjust yourself and kind of rewrite your own ship. And she does in a pretty short time with Korra. Not perfectly. Even at the end, we're still not back to sort of a peak Toph, but we are to a place where we have a more willing and accepting Toph at the end of, at the end of their short interaction together. where she's
Yeah, and
pushing Korra
then
back out into the world to go be a good avatar.
yeah, um, and then in Operation Beifong, yeah, after they save Sigyn and stuff, after Lin and Toph save Sigyn, and there's some kind of hurtful stuff like her and sorry, Lin and Toph are like fighting, and like it's almost like it is one of those real life awkward fights between people. You're like, can I just leave? Like,
I,
just
can I get
and
out the car? Can you don't even have to stop it. I'll just jump out if you unlock the door.
yeah. Um, and like it got to a point where it's a very sad moment where Lynn is like, after we save Sue, we're leaving. We're separating. I don't want to see you again. And then Toph is like, well, if that's really what you want, who am I to say? Like, oh my gosh, like it's a sad thing. One, it's a sad thing that she didn't fight for it. Again, Toph is all about freedom for her daughters, and even that means freedom from her. Even though it's almost like a stubborn belief, and like, hey, like I'm hands off. Like if that's what you want, and then they end up reconciling at the end where they save them because Lynn apologizes, and it's almost like, hey, I know I made some mistakes, but if I had you two, like maybe I didn't do that bad of a job. Like that thing is, that was her best. I don't think she even said sorry. That's like her best
As
apology.
as close as she could come. Listen, it's
Yeah,
not an apology, but it's a start towards some vulnerability.
it is. It is a realize. It is a come to reality moment.
It's like a
People
teaser.
say come to yeah.
Come to Jesus, mom. It's a teaser for a real apology. Is what it is. Yeah, Chris. What's the last that we see of Toph comics or show?
Ooh, actually, it's pretty fun. Hold on, why should I? The last and the last thing we see of Toph, like in her old age, is a beach party with uh with all the kids, like Katara and all her grandkids, and like Toph was there with Opal and Bolin, and like Katara brings in all the Airbending kids. Like, listen, we have to attack them. like, like we have to attack in a playful manner. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" They're just singing over polite. She's like, "I know Toph Beifong, and they're planning something to attack us with, like water or splash, something, some playful type of deal." Um, so that's the last that we see of that. But I mean, it shows that like Toph is reconnecting. Like Toph didn't go back to the swamp. I don't think she went back to the swamp after that. I think she stayed and did some reconnecting.
I think the effort is telling, right? We don't know what's going on necessarily inside Toph's head in that moment, but she's clearly like making an effort to try to be reconnected in a personal way. And I don't know, like maybe she still has a long way to go. Maybe she doesn't have long left to live. Who knows? But like she's doing what she can. She's controlling what she can control, and she's trying to grow and improve. And that's so very meaningful to me as an observer, as an absorber of the media. That's all you can do. And so again, the main reason for bringing this up is just because I think Toph gives you the greatest span of arc across all of the media that we currently have at our disposal, and it really is up and down. But I think it's some of the best writing across the TV show, at least as far as character goes, in just that it feels real.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, I'm gonna read back what exactly Toph said after the Ming Operation Big Fong. She says, "Look, I know I wasn't a great mother, but one way or another, I ended up with two great kids, good enough to risk my bony old butt for anyway. if you can just find some way not to hate me, maybe that's enough, at least for me. It's kind of sad.
That's kind
And
of sharp. It hurts.
then, yeah, and then Lynn says, "Me too." And then Bolin comes in and ruins the mood, but it's okay.
Bolin
Um,
ruins
I,
everything.
I, I, I like just how real the real. That's the thing I love about Legend of Korra. Yeah, one thing. Did we ever do the episode of the things that Avatar did better than Legend of Korra? I'm not sure if we did or not. We'll have to do it just to be fair
I
if
don't
we
remember
haven't
if we
done it.
did both ways. I think we
Um,
intentionally set it aside for a while.
I think you're right. Oh, just be fair, we'll have to get back to that at some point.
Yeah,
Because there are plenty of things that the Avatar Last Airbender does better than Legend of Korra. But
sure.
one of the things that Legend of Korra I think does really well is painting these very human relationships, complicated relationships, whether that's Tenzin, Bumi, Kaya, especially sibling relationships, um, and how that evolved. Suyin and Lin relationship with Toph. Um, like this is they grew with their audience, and like these are realistic, mature relationships.
They do. They feel very grounded in reality. Chris, that's all I had. Just wanted to pay homage to what I think is some of the. I don't know if I can argue the best character writing or anything, but some of my personal favorite and possibly among the best character writing in the entire
Hmm.
show in Toph's overall arc from the beginning of Avatar: The Last Last Airbender to the end of Legend of Korra. It's
He definitely
fantastic.
has. Like no other character has that long of an arc that crosses shows. That's actually really interesting.
Not to that degree. I mean, like, yeah, obviously, I know we just see some flashbacks or you get a little Iroh or whatever, but Iroh you
Hmm.
see in Korra isn't
Oh,
playing the
he's
same role and not
no,
developing the same way
he
as
is like
Toph you see in
the
Korra.
most fully developed Iroh, so much so that he could reach reach Nirvana and be a spirit.
Yeah, he's done. He's he's not progressing anymore. So yeah, nobody has the canvas to work with that Toph does, and it's worth it, 100%. That's all I got, Chris. It's late. Let's go to bed.
It is late.
It is.
What
Yep.
time is
My name's Shawn. That's my friend Chris Ford,
it?
aka the
Yeah.
Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. Sorry about all the sneezing and allergies and sniffling. And
Oh, like,
we we will be back next week to talk about something. I don't know what. Something else. That's too far
glad
away,
to get
but
back into the Netflix show.
back to
Actually,
the
do
Netflix
episodic
show.
reviews.
Yeah, it's probably time for episodic reviews. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. In the meantime, like, comment, bells, ribbons, subs, whatever positive
Ribbons?
things you can click on for us.
The heck are ribbons?
I don't know. I ran out of
Okay.
words. Just I feel like I was missing one. Thumbs ups? Was that what I was trying to say? Anyway, click on the
I do.
positive things for us. We love that. Really helps. And we appreciate it. I'll leave all the information down in the description, just like always, and we'll see you next time.
Getting cold. Kitsune, 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 kitsune.